So I recently quit playing World of Warcraft, and I was talking about it with a friend of mine. Part of it is because World of Warcraft Classic is coming up in the next little while, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and he said, "No, no, it's you're just taking a break from it," and he's probably right. And it's odd because there's the primary drive to play that game is has been was social, and I happen to have a really good guild, and we're a raiding guild, but we're like a casual heroic raiding guild, which is which is rare. I suppose it's rare. I know our guild master was saying that there was one applicant who was interested in the guild, and he's talking about it, and they're kind of like a little interview thing, but it's totally casual, like nobody's stressed about anything. And the guy actually cussed out our guild master, calling him a liar, that that we can't be casual, basically because of how effective we are as raiders. And it's interesting, efficacy in playing games isn't entirely a there's a kind of, it's not like there's a hedonism in it, it's not like a selfishness, there's a kind of personal responsibility that has to exist, but it ends up being kind of a team effort in that a person becomes better on their own while they're with other people, and a good environment makes that inevitable, really. Anyhow, so I raid, and it's casual, it's not stressful or anything like that, and I've gone back to it. Um, and uh, but I still feel burnt out, and I've felt that way for a very long time. In one sense, I feel like I was part of something around the core demographic, the core user base way back when, even though as I was, I wasn't one of the original kinds of players back in the day. I was pretty. I came soon after, and I still get the. I've had the feeling over the years of being um, disrespected by the game authors with how they've been handling things, and I've talked about that rift of, as the core audience that made the game successful in the first place are there, and it's ballooning in that there's this ever expanding surface area where the core players don't really change too much, but there's an expansion in order to capture more wallets, to extend out to new demographics, new play styles, all this kind of stuff. And how I kind of feel like I've been left behind alongside a lot of other people. And that's why I've been thinking about Classic. But I quit the game, and one of the reasons that I'll call it taking a break. One of the reasons I'm taking a break is because I have felt like it's the same old, and that there can be new content with new mechanics, and I enjoy playing with those people, but I haven't actually done anything in the game other than that stuff, and I just haven't cared. And I'm sure there's more reasons than that, and frustrated or whatever. I mean, we got good enough that we went, cleared everything on regular, cleared everything on heroic, went back and did all the achievements to so we have got all the titles and the mount and all this kind of stuff. So it's like a very significant success. So much so that we're like, okay, we'll take a break, go into off season, and people can bring their alts, and we'll just go and we'll goof around. We'll get transmog, which is like appearance gear, and there's no, we don't have to concern ourselves about all the trying too hard anymore. You're still there, still want to be effective and all that. We spend less time and less concern, and it's a good time for me to step out anyway. I stay there because you want to have some of the original players bringing their best, so that people who are playing something new, or maybe it's just new people joining the guild perhaps, but usually it's people playing an alt of some kind. They come in, they're not going to be as good, they're not going to be as geared, and it's kind of like carrying these people. So I feel a little bit bad about stepping away from that. but it's a good time to step away, to leave. And I got the same kind of sensation that I have when quitting a job I didn't like. Or I mean, and it's the same thing as ending any relationship. There's this, it's almost surprising, this kind of freedom. It's like the last day of school before summer vacation. It's something, and I got that feeling, and it's been a few days now that I've been thinking about that, and I think I've nailed it down to the fact that that game and most games are full time. They're full investment, and I think that the moment that I canceled a recurring subscription, the moment I freed myself from this sense of obligation that paying money into something gives, is when I freed myself of that, there was this sense of what would I explain? How would I explain it? It's like a relaxation that comes. So even though I was already having a pretty chill experience playing with people and doing stuff and having fun to a point, I have a totally different feeling now, such that, like I've said this before, if the game were free to play, and it has been, I have done the work to make the game free to play in the past, and there's a certain sense of something there, and I've had to pay for the last couple of months a subscription fee again, and the tone of my emotion in the game has completely changed, and I've really noticed it. And after having cancel the credit card fees, I I get that feeling, kind of like almost like an elation. And so I'm thinking that all the games that are trying to crowd one another out by getting 100% of each of their players' attention, when a game does that and gets people on, even just that, subscription aside, but seeing a subscription is a great way of making it real, where there is a kind of pressure that exists in a game that presents so many options of playing and so many activities, and hinting at the need to accomplish too many of those ideas, how it's kind of oppressive, like school or like work or like one of those locked in relationships, and how a game that has less goals in the mechanics of the game lets the players who are still invested in the game, they'll find ways to grind, ways to spend time. But the thing that Classic had is the game was not necessarily about the gameplay. There was a lot of stuff that was broken in there. And I'm doing research and I'm seeing more and more of it being completely just kind of wrong. At the time, it would have been fine stuff, but nowadays it's kind of dumb and wrong and stupid mechanics. Not about being casual, not about any of that stuff, but just mechanically wrong. But the game was about being social, and so it's possible for a player to step in, to not make it a full-time thing where there's a million activities, and quite a significant number of them kind of need to be done to optimize how effective a player is, so that when they step into a primary activity like raiding, they'll have pulled their weight, they'll be up to speed. There's so much that hours a day have to kind of be spent before it's like there's a guilt in not spending more time to get better gear on your own or whatever. And so when a game presents too many options, and in a sense sometimes makes too many options mandatory, that on top of so there's a kind of drive there, and there's also a drive with a subscription fee. So all these things tacked on, all these daily or weekly goals, all of these, you can get units of whatever the heck, this upgrade token or this thing. If you just play a little bit of extra time, you get a chance at this or that. just capture more of a player's time. Whereas a game, something like one of the original games, like World of Warcraft Classic, doesn't have those concepts, doesn't really have end game goals as such. Um, it's going to have a subscription fee. So I'm wondering if there's going to be freedom from all those essentially daily grindy activities, going to be stripping that away, but it's going to be giving a monthly subscription. I'm wondering if the social aspect of stuff is going to be enough to capture my attention in the game well enough that they can kind of get away with gouging me with that ridiculous fee. And it is, it's a AAA game every 2-3 months is the subscription fee. And that's really significant. And so, yeah, I think that's everything that's on my mind, is that feeling of freedom of specifically not having a subscription fee. And it may be replaced with a choice once a month for me to do that, as opposed to it being a recurring fee that happens automatically. And being freed from being forced to do dailies, or being able to like sit down every day and actually be done with the game. You do a few things every day, maybe when you feel like it, and then you can be done. And any extra stuff that you do is kind of okay, but it's not really important, not necessary at all. And you can just kind of go and play the game and do stuff. Whereas the current game, everything that you do matters. And so there's some sense of being forced to do as much as is reasonable, so as much time as you can spend, etc. So I'd rather play a game where I could play, if it's a half an hour a day or something like that, and be like, okay, well, I've done a couple things that were my goals. I'm done. I can get on with life. And that doesn't necessarily mean go and play another game either. So hopefully World of Warcraft Classic won't, the term is bogart, won't bogart all my time. Won't just capture the spotlight, won't flirt too much. So yeah, that's it. Freedom from subscription, freedom from daily activities.